Federal Executive Council approves Science, Technology and Innovation Policy. $1.04 billion spent on fuel imports in 2021, says the Central Bank of Nigeria. European markets are set to plunge after Russia launched attack on Ukraine. This is Business Express on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we're reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Cotton Babatunde. Good morning once more, and let's begin the business of the day by informing you that the Federal Executive Council has approved a revised policy for Nigeria's science, technology and innovation sector. This is to enable the country keep pace with the new and emerging technological advancements globally. Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Ogbonna announced these at a media briefing after the meeting of the council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The main objective is for us to use science, technology and innovation to improve the standard of living of our citizens. And this we can get if our nation becomes more prosperous and our economy is more globally competitive. We would like to see Nigeria using this policy to be one of the top scientific powers in the world.
And we remain with that meeting where the Federal Executive Council approved 56.3 billion for the completion of the Abaji-Kotun-Karfi section of the Abuja-Lokoja Highway. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, revealed these to State House correspondents at the end of the council meeting that was, of course, presided over by President Buhari yesterday in Abuja. He said the approval was for the re-award of the contract for the 49-kilometer section of the road due to non-performance by the former contractor. Okay, the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Isa Ali Pantami, is encouraging startups and innovators in the Nigeria ecosystem to take ownership of existing policies to further consolidate and enhance the success of the ecosystem. Pantami stated these when he met with indigenous innovators in Lagos to explore avenues of developing the ecosystem to further drive the digital economy agenda. At the interactive session organized by the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, which has the theme fostering an enabling environment for startup growth. The minister says that the objective of the session is to understand firsthand what the ecosystem requires from the government in order to thrive, while emphasizing that federal government is open and willing to suggestions on what it can do to further ensure the success of the ecosystem. The minister noted that incentives like grants, tax and fiscal incentives, startup labeling, seed funding for startups, tax holidays have been provided for in the plan to provide the necessary support by government. He, however, stressed that the National Startup Bill, the National Council for Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the National Policy for the Development of Indigenous Content in the Telecommunications Sector, among others, as examples of government's commitment to enact and implement policies that enable the ecosystem. The federal government says it plans to spend 1.42 trillion naira on infrastructural development and 2.11 trillion naira on human capital development in the year 2022. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed disclosed these in Abuja while speaking at the special town hall meeting on the achievements of the federal government in infrastructural development. She said the federal government had prioritized the development of infrastructure nationwide as it was key in ensuring economic and sustainable growth in all areas of the economy.
Some of the key infrastructures that have been funded by external loans include the Zungeru hydropower plant project, which was a loan of $984 million, the Lagos-Ibadan railway project at $1.26 billion, the upgrading and rehabilitation of the Kefi-Akwanga-Lafia Road project at $460 million, the supply of rolling stock and depot equipment for the Abuja Light Rail project phase 1, $164 million. The NICTIP project, this is an infrastructure, ICT infrastructure backbone, the Galaxy backbone, in the sum of $328 million. We have also the 4 airport terminal expansion projects, phase 2, in the sum of $208.91 million, ancillary works for the same 4 airports, in the sum of $183.62 million. These are all ongoing projects.
On his part, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, said the special town hall meeting is to showcase the achievements of the federal government in various sectors and also to give members of the Federal Executive Council an opportunity to account for their stewardship.
Agree with me that what we hear is that this government is borrowing. I think today you've heard not only what the government is doing with borrowing, but also the impact of the borrowing on our people. In other words, we borrow to provide roads, to provide power, to provide bridges, to provide airports, provide water, and transportation. And of course, when we do that, people are happier, the economy grows, and more people are employed.
To take the conversation on infrastructural development in the country as well as other ways of financing infrastructure in Nigeria is the Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, Kaduna State University, Professor Aminu Usman, who joins us from our Kaduna Network studios. Professor, you're welcome to Business Express.
Good morning.
How is the weather in Kaduna this morning?
Far so good, a little bit hot, but yeah, the weather is changing. We are moving from Hamatan to the other side. So, but so far so good, alhamdulillah.
So, infrastructure now, can you help us put it into context? Where are we and where are we headed after listening to all the ministers reeled out just a couple of moments ago?
When we talk about infrastructure, we are talking about all gamut of activities that fuel the economy, that help in growing the economy, that help in actually improving the quality of life of the people, in making the country very, very competitive internationally, in making production and supply a lot easier, that will create necessary jobs and happiness among people. And chief among them is probably providing roads, providing bridges, like the minister said, providing electricity, providing water, providing communication network and things like that. So And as it is, Nigeria is far, far behind its peers, far, far behind in its provision of these critical needs of the society. And in a globalized world, infrastructure is key to actually succeeding, is key actually to growing the economy, is actually key in providing jobs and then even in providing security, because the part of the security challenges we are having in this country can be attributed to poor road infrastructure, because most of the roads are impassable, so it's easy for miscreants actually block the road and then create mayhem. It's also part of the problem when you don't have a dependable communication infrastructure. It's also part of the problem because it increases the cost of production, so it makes Nigerian output significantly non-competitive in the international market, because it is easier for you to manufacture something in China and then transport it to Nigeria and then you come and sell cheaper than what is produced in Nigeria, because the cost due to paucity of adequate and sufficient infrastructure is actually impacting on the ability of Nigerians to be cost leaders in most of the areas they are into.
And now that you've gone to the issue of infrastructure and of course the imports that we're receiving from countries that are producing at far cheaper rates. Nigeria is a signatory to the AFCFTA, and of course we are already in that system full swing. So this means that technically in the next 10 years, any of the 52 countries that is a signatory to that can import around the member nations and export, of course, with as much as zero duty. What will it mean for Nigeria when other countries on the continent begin to bring in their goods to Nigeria at zero duty if we do not bridge the existing gaps we have before the 10-year mark catches up with us? The mark catches.
Really, it's going to be disastrous for the country if we are not able to put our house in order, if we are not able to actually get it right with what infrastructure. But the problem is whether we have the capacity to actually cover the gap. But one interesting thing is that Nigeria is the largest country in Africa in terms of people, so it has the largest market. So everybody actually wants to export to Nigeria because Nigeria is a big market. But then Nigeria is a hub of production. Now, the issue is that this government is probably racing to see that at least it's raise the level of the infrastructure so that it can make the country to be competitive in the international market. But if you allow other countries to actually be far ahead of us, which means they will have cost advantage, they will have access to Nigerian market much easier than we have access to their own market, because if you don't have required infrastructure, probably you have to be able to produce at an acceptable grade and standards in the international market that will make you actually make products accepted. Most of the things we do is off record. That's why we can be able to produce and sell anything. But if you know the structure of production and the control of the Nigerian market, I think government needs to do much more than it is doing in terms of providing infrastructure and easing up doing business, because part of the infrastructure needs for countries now is actually the ease of doing business, which means improved in security, improved in regulations. I mean, breaking all kinds of barriers to production and competitiveness, so that they can be able to produce and sell massively. If you look at the Lagos market, serves Lagos and Kano market and Onitsha market, they all serve the West Africa as far as Central African Republic, as well as Southern Africa. Now, if government will focus on providing key infrastructure and also providing laws, rules, and regulation that eases the way business is done in this country, I think we will not have much to fear. But as far as infrastructure is concerned, I think we are significantly backward. And the amount of investment needed cannot be financed by borrowing. Now, even though the minister was talking about saying that the country is saying borrowing. Yeah, some of us have problem with the level of borrowing, because you don't borrow just because you want to provide infrastructure. You must be able to borrow to ensure that the borrowing can be able to pay for itself. Now, the problem with is what we are facing today is the country is cash strapped. We don't have cash, and you don't pay. You can grow your GDP, but GDP don't pay debt. It's cash that pay debts, and we don't have the capacity to generate enough cash to be able to pay our debt. Now, what will happen later? We'll file up debts that we cannot be able to pay, because most of the projects we are financing with the debt are not projects that are tied. The loans are not tied to actually repayment from the project. If government wants to continue borrowing, then it must tie the project to actually, to buy the repayment of the loans to the performance of the project, which means if you are going to construct Kaduna, you are going to continue to borrow to complete Kaduna, Abuja, Abuja, Kano Road. So then you must be able to toll Kaduna Abuja Road effectively to be able to collect money and pay the loan. Let the lenders know that you are actually using this money for this project, and it is this project that will pay the loans, so that the repayment would be tied to some of these key projects. Otherwise, the burden on the fiscal operation of the government will be too overbearing for other governments to come. There are other alternatives the government should be able to open, like the Infrastructure Regulatory Commission is not acting. It's not really acting in providing alternative for the government. Now, the problem why people are complaining about borrowing is the capacity to pay the loans and the effectiveness of the loans with regards to the timing and the cost. And one other thing that government must do, and any government that comes after that government must also do, is the issue of actually curtailing the excessive cost of contracts in this country. You borrow money at an excessive high cost, and then you now pay exorbitantly higher than every other country in the world in terms of contract execution. You have a project of about 50 kilometers, and then you are less than 50 kilometers, and then it's going to cost about 60 billion naira to finance, and just like that. So government need to sit down and actually review the cost of these contracts for all these projects, vis-a-vis the cost of borrowing the funds and then the ability to pay the funds. To pay the loans.
It's actually a tough one from what you're reading right now. So at 1.42 trillion naira, how far will this go in bridging the gap?
1.2 trillion naira is huge amount of money. My problem is that most of it will go and paying contracts that are not worth 1.2 trillion. Government should be able to actually insist on getting value for all that money. That means we need to review cost all these contracts, all these projects, to ensure that the actual amount we are paying is competitive all over the world. And you see, that will ensure that the projects are completed in good time. That will ensure that the money let us achieve a lot rather than just achieving a little with huge amount of money substantially borrowed, and which we are going to pay. We pay with interest over a long period of time. We might think that some of these projects, some of these loans are probably have a 20-year, 25-year life, but it will catch up with the country. A country lives in perpetuity, so we cannot just say, okay, we'll just keep borrowing, because other governments will be confronted with the same problem. So how can if every government comes and keep borrowing on behalf of the next government to pay? I think we are setting the country on a very dangerous stand. So what I'm proposing is that, yes, we need this infrastructure. Absolutely. But then the funding of the infrastructure should follow, should be changed. We need to think out of the box. And how do we fund this infrastructure without actually overstretching the fiscal capacity of the government? How do we actually make money out of the project directly that will be used to pay up the loans for the project? Otherwise, we keep filing debts, and then we keep filing outstandings that will be so unmanageable. We were able to get out of this debt quagmire some 10, 15, 17 years ago. Now we are going back deeply worse than what we were before. So everybody has to be concerned that, yes, we have signed ACFTA and it's going to export the country to mass inflow of products from African countries, but then with little capacity for us to also export. But then some people will also argue that, most of the markets in Nigeria are actually serving, even if not West Central Africa. Yes, but then at what level?
You pointed out some moments back as something that is very, very germane for us to consider. That is government insisting on value for money. You said government should insist on value for money when dealing with contractors. But then, while government is spending, activities of criminals have continued to erode gains. Are there enough measures to curtail these anomalies, considering the fact that we might just be throwing money down the drain?
And part of infrastructure provision is actually to provide effective security infrastructure, effective communication. I mean, it is only in this country you find that criminals are using the communication network at will to actually create mayhem, to kill, to maim, to do whatever they like. Why can't we have adequate infrastructure that will track every everybody on every criminal wherever he is? So part of the challenges of infrastructure is already giving effective infrastructures that will effectively curtail the activities of criminals. Because, of course, like you said, it's eroding. Even now, one of the biggest challenges of following, let's say, Kaduna-Abuja road is because the roads are bad. So criminals can take advantage of it. So if the fixing of the road is completed, probably we will see some reduction. But then what is important is a communication equipment, a communication infrastructure that will be able to track their movement, either militarily or even through civilian means of communication. That is part of the challenges. Also, so admitting of criminals is actually like what used to happen with the oil vandalism and all that. It requires a lot of infrastructure also on that side.
So, Usman from Kaduna State University, KASU, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Business Express. Yes. Next is our Surviving COVID-19 series.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
My name is Ibrahim Attari, aka Papa. What I'm doing is what you are seeing here. This is what I'm selling, those shoes here, more than 18 years now. The makers are closer to me. Those are them, the shoemakers around me there. They are done and making it, then come, I buy from them. Some used to come and give me. When I sell, I balance them back. COVID-19 just arrived by February now. Then we lock by March. After the COVID-19, before you recover weight we lost, the loss is that you eat it, not that the thief it or something. You lost it on the way that when you come, you sell and go and eat. Some have run back to village before the lockdown has ended, then they come open shop. It affects because we have told to go for 2 weeks. Then being at home for the 2 weeks, we think that we are coming back. What we have, we keep using it. Like in 2 weeks time, we are coming. It is like break. Because they can't have 2 weeks. They see us. Then before we know, then we have eat what we have. End of it, before the government opened the shops, we used to come and open goals by the main road side. From there, what we sell, you don't need to go buy it. You only need to go and eat. From there, everything has changed. As you can see, the empty space now. Who know me can see me in the TV. May come show me who give me money during COVID-19 to come and do business. Who is the particular person from which office government has given money that have no reach us here. We have applied through some people, but up to now we have not received it. I have learned how to manage my life. From there we know it is difficult to stay one place for so long.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Now, speakers at the colloquium on the Nigerian economy and capital market identified low participation and inadequate knowledge of the market, which hinders the realization of full potentials of Nigeria's capital market. However, expressed optimism that the ongoing reforms will deepen innovation and a sound regulatory framework.
More innovation that needs to come to fore in terms of this kind of products that is available not only to investors but even to the issuers, to encourage the issuers to want to look towards the capital market or the stock market to risk financing as different from seeking financing through other means.
Sectors that account for about 90% of the GDP are not listed, and that's why you do not have the capital market being a representative of the structure of the economy. It's because the economy is largely informal in nature. Trade sector, 15.6%, They are basically artisans.
Curriculum is the engine base that drives knowledge. And if the curriculum is faulty, if it's not bearing with a level of development, we are just wasting our time.
And Nigerian stocks declined marginally midweek to log a 0.08% decline at the close of business. While the local market is resuming red this morning, European markets are set to plunge after Russia launched attack on Ukraine. Stable reports. Global markets have been under pressure this week, with traders rattled by events in Europe after Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered troops into 2 breakaway regions of eastern Ukraine. Oil futures jumped and Asia-Pacific shares fell on Thursday as investors watched the escalating situation between Russia and Ukraine. Markets across Asia were in negative territory. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 declined by 1.81%, Shanghai Composite 1.67%, and the Hang Seng Index also dipped 2.97%. U.S. stock futures fell sharply early Thursday as Russia attacked Ukraine. Dow futures fell 710 points, while futures tied to the S&P 500 were down 2.17%. Nasdaq 100 futures also declined 2.62%. European stocks closed lower on Wednesday as geopolitical tensions over the Russia-Ukraine crisis overshadowed a strong set of corporate earnings, and figures are expected to be on the low. While in Africa, no figures yet as at the time of this report. Boss said they able Business Express. And of course, this is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget, you can access all previous episodes on YouTube. We value your feedback. Do join us again on Friday at 3 p.m. for another package. I leave you this morning perhaps with a prayer saying, God help Ukraine, that it does not linger and drag into an economic condition that the world will be unable to bear. I'm Leah Katumbaba today.
Issues in the sports sector remain one